and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily thou art their helper and their Lord. Baha'u'llah.
Thank you, Patty. And thank you all once again for joining us. And I'd like to first introduce our other host. Patty is one host. Tom Kubala is the other host, the tandem host. And he will share a little bit about the Baha'i faith and about our guest, Robert Malouf. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Greetings to everyone. So happy to be here tonight. I'm just going to share a few minutes introducing, if you don't already know, the Baha'i faith. It is, the series is from a Baha'i perspective, so as much as you can know about the Baha'i faith, it helps to understand the speaker's point of view. And I'm going to just read a few things here. This one especially is an interesting description of the faith. It says, throughout history, God has sent to humanity a series of divine educators known as manifestations of God, whose teachings have provided the basis for the advancement of civilization. These manifestations have included Abraham, Krishna, Zoroaster, Moses, Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad. Baha'u'llah, the latest of these messengers, explained that the religions of the world come from the same source and are in essence successive chapters of one religion from God. Baha'is believe the crucial need facing humanity is to find a unifying vision of the future of society and of the nature and purpose of life. Such a vision unfolds in the writings of Baha'u'llah. So there are three central figures of the Baha'i faith. The two messengers of God, the manifestations, the Bab and Baha'u'llah. You can see there their dates of birth and passing. The Bab is known as the forerunner or the gate, which is a literal translation of the word Bab. And he prepared people for the coming of the promised one, Baha'u'llah. And then you'll see quotes from Abdu'l-Baha here and there. And Abdu'l-Baha is the eldest son of Baha'u'llah and was the appointed center of the Baha'i faith after the passing of Baha'u'llah. The faith is centered around oneness. And every teaching that you read about, every principle, all of the organizing features of the Baha'i faith have to do with oneness. And in the first place, the recognition of the oneness of God. Baha'u'llah says, God grant that with a penetrating vision thou mayest perceive in all things the sign of the revelation of him who is the ancient king, and recognize how exalted and sanctified from the whole creation is that most holy and sacred being. This, in truth, is the very root and essence of belief in the unity and singleness of God. If God is one, and then it just goes to kind of a normal transition to the thinking that religions then are one, if there is only one God. In October 1912, Abdu'l-Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, addressed 2,000 students, teachers, and guests at Leland Stanford University in Palo Alto, California. Abdu'l-Baha was in a part of a trip that he made visiting the Baha'is in the United States, giving talks and lectures and personal meetings across the country for a number of months in the year 1912. He said this: 50 years ago, Baha'u'llah declared the necessity of peace among the nations and the reality of reconciliation between the religions of the world. He announced that the fundamental basis of all religion is one, that the essence of religion is human fellowship, and that the differences in belief which exists are due to dogmatic interpretation and blind imitations, which are at variance with the foundations established by the prophets of God. He proclaimed that if the reality underlying religious teaching be investigated, all religions would be unified, and the purpose of God, which is love and the blending of human hearts, would be accomplished. It just goes to say that the oneness of religion leads to the necessary understanding that mankind is one. And again, the way that the Baha'i faith is organized is in sole reflection of this one principle, that there is only one race, and it's the human race. Baha'u'llah says, "Know ye not why we created you all from the same dust? That no one should exalt himself over the other. Ponder at all times in your hearts how ye were created. Since we have created you all from one same substance, it is incumbent on you to be even as one soul, to walk with the same feet, eat with the same mouth, and dwell in the same land, that from your inmost being, by your deeds and actions, the signs of oneness and the essence of detachment may be made manifest." So that's a very short introduction to a faith that is infinitesimal in its depth and range, but you get the big picture there. But I'd like to introduce Robert. He gave us this very short bio, and of course his first reference is to his beloved wife Manije. And we've known Robert. Patty and I have known Robert for a long time. He used to live in our community in Cedarburg, and we enjoyed his company for many, many years. He's been a Baha'i for quite a while, maybe as long as I have. And everything that Robert does and attempts is to make for a better world and for the betterment of the people of the world. And so I'd like to introduce Robert. You have to unmute yourself, Robert.
Yes. So let's say be generous and prosperity for a little while until
Okay.
we get there. But it looks lovely. When we get there, it'll be really good. So we can just see the faces for now.
Okay, let me do that. Hold on. All right.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, first of all, I really want to thank the friends in Cedarburg and Tom and Nancy and Patty, who obviously are on every call in the beginning. This is only the second one, but they've been on call early. And I have to tell you, the way this has been presented and organized is really impressive. You know, those of us who've been Baha'is almost 50 years, some longer, some shorter, we love to hear those basic teachings. We never outgrow them. It's the stuff our hearts are made of. And the way things are formatted and presented so that whoever that speaker is able to address a subject floating on what the basic teachings are. So nobody has to wonder, is this the Baha'i? Is this Jewish Baha'i? Is Baha'i that? No, everybody knows it's Baha'i, right? So again, compliments, it's just really wonderful. The first thing I want to do is break rule 2. Breaking rules is really wonderful. So I wonder if everybody, just very, very quickly, would say your name, where you live. Some of you I know, and is there anything in particular you would like to get out of tonight? Very briefly. And I'll tell you what, let's just start with Tom, then Patty, then Donna and Keith, and I'll take it from there.
Hi, Tom Kubala. I live in Cedarburg, part of the Baha'i community of Cedarburg, and I particularly am interested in the quote that Robert will be going through because it is so jam-packed with the characteristics that are kind of demanded of people who wish to make a better world.
Thank you so much, Tom. Patty? And of course, you're muted.
That's rare. Anyway, I would like that all of our friends who join us tonight who don't know as much about the faith or who aren't Baha'is find out what they want to find out, or at least a start of what they'd like to find out.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patty. And let's go to, I'm just going to go by my screen. Donna and Keith, is there anything, tell us where you live in Sheboygan. I think I just did that, but go
Keith
ahead.
and Don, okay, Keith and Donna, town of Sheboygan, just everything.
Just everything. Oh, Donna, you haven't changed. God bless you. Patty, and then Bob and Martha.
Patty Hoffman?
Yes, please.
Patty Hoffman from Manitowoc, and I love hearing about the virtues anytime I can.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Bob and Martha.
Martha Wagner from Washington Island.
Bob Wagner from Washington Island. I spent my first 18 years of life in Manitowoc. Lived on Vebon Street, Ms. Hoffman. 1803 Vebon, you know the place?
And is there anything in particular you'd like to get out of this evening?
I would like to understand how to approach and talk with people who are interested in the Baha'i faith.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Let me just make a note here. I already have the answer written down for you.
Oh, good.
Michelle and Dan, dear friends again from many years.
Yeah, very good. My name is Michelle Conlon, and I'm a Baha'i from the Cedarburg community. And I guess what would be wonderful is to, as we look at all of those characteristics and virtues, is to touch on how we grow into them, how we practice them.
Wonderful.
And I'm Dan Conlon from Cedarburg, Baha'i here in Cedarburg. And I'm interested in the idea that character is part of our spiritual development. So it's an ongoing process of who we are and who we're becoming. And so I'm eager to hear more, or your explanation of that.
Thank you so much. And it looks like Beverly. I don't know if we've met, Beverly, but we're meeting now, if not before. And I think you're muted.
Sorry, Beverly Patton Allen. I'm in Cedarburg, a Baha'i, fairly recent here, and I'm really interested to see how the flow of this evening goes.
Well, you're already getting an idea, aren't you?
Yes.
Because I hope, friends, you're getting an idea that it's inclusive and that the purpose of tonight, forget the rules. The purpose of tonight is really an informal conversation. I'm obviously going to share some thoughts, and we're going to play by the rules and have discussion afterwards. But I'm really more interested in an ongoing conversation where we can look at a few of these qualities in some depth and then be able to apply them not only to the individual, but to the collective, to the nation, and to the world. Because when we view some of these items like that, we see how pertinent they are in every way. Thank you so much, Beverly. Judith, and then we'll go to Dottie. Dottie, yes. Judith, I think you're muted.
Hi, everybody. I'm a neighbor of the Kabbalahs, and I'm here to learn.
Wonderful. Well, You're in good company. We're all here for that. So that sounds very good. And it looks like it's Dottie, but I'm seeing a different face. I'm seeing Mary Jo. Am I wrong?
No, it's Dottie.
Okay, you look at you're further back, so I couldn't quite tell.
Oh, well, yeah. Hi, everybody. It's a special chance to see and hear Robert and see other old friends. So I thought I'd drop in.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do I dare ask my wife what she wants to get out of this evening? Do I dare do that? Manije, please introduce yourself.
Yes, Manija Khurshidi from Brookfield. I am interested, Robert, in learning first. As a friend mentioned, I love the process of learning, just a useful thing. I love that. Also, I'm interested in your topics. Really, I'm here to hear about the qualities, as Tom said, and characteristic for our spiritual growth. And if by any chance there is any shortcut for our spiritual growth, I love to know that.
Well, there's an easy how. But you know what's easy can involve struggle. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And is it Theris? How do I pronounce your name?
Theris Schultz from Mequon.
Theris, thank you so much.
I have always said for years that I am a Baha'i spirit. For those who have been around me and like Patty and Tom. So when I first met them, that's how I learned about this. And I have enjoyed learning and hearing and look forward to learning more about this.
Wonderful. You know, kindred souls are really what the Baha'is yearn for. In the Baha'i faith, we have the concept of God being like the sun. The light shines on everything. It shines on daisies, that's one name. Shines on roses, that's another name. What's important, the name, or are they growing? Do they love the sun? Have they turned to the sun? Religion should be very simple, shouldn't be complex. Thank you so much, Theris. My dear friend, Alan Washatko.
Thank you, Robert. I guess for me, the ongoing quest of understanding and practicing virtues is ever present. So I'm here to learn more.
Wonderful. And Alan and I have shared many times together. I've enjoyed his virtuous personality as well as good meals together. So, you know, whole variety of virtues there. And dear Nancy Hintertier.
Hi, y'all. Thanks, Robert, again for being here. Of course, we have, or some of us, a few of us have the advantage of knowing the quote that you're using as the source of your discussion tonight. So that informs my answer a little bit, because thinking about this particular quote really identifies all of these different qualities that are needed, as you said, for a just and peaceful society. And people, when we talk about, you know, world peace or justice, very often there's sort of broad strokes or what other people should do or what needs to happen. But this helps it become really personal. I think I'm looking to understand more clearly which specific qualities I need to work on and I need to bring to the table, not everybody else necessarily, but what I need to bring to the table. And so I'm really looking forward to the discussion about that.
Wonderful. And friends, God is very merciful. He only asks us to do everything, you know, step by step, everything. So there you go. Okay, Sharon Harper, so nice to see you, and you're on.
Thank you, Robert. It's so nice to see you too. It's been a number of years. I live in California now, but I was a transplant in Cedarburg for a number of years also. And I miss all of you, and I'm just happy to be here this evening. So whatever you're having to say, Robert, I am going to be most interested, and it's always joyous and a learning experience. So thank you.
It's very mutual, and love to your dear son, John.
Thank you.
Please send greetings. He's not been forgotten. Katie Jackson. Now this is a Katie Jackson I've known for some years, but haven't seen in many years.
Is that correct?
Are you there, Katie?
I am. I'm here. What I wanted to, I guess I want you to explore just a little bit more of oneness, the oneness of God. I believe in it, but I just like for you to explore that, because I do know that that causes unity. It seems to be far-fetched, but I would like to really know about more of it.
Yes, thank you so much. With the permission of our hosts, I will, before going into the topic, address that. The great thing about being the speaker, they're polite to you, they're courteous. It's a virtue, right? It's a quality. So it's kind of like free range. No matter what they do, they have to be nice to me tonight. Otherwise, they look bad. If I do something wrong, well, Robert, he hasn't changed. Wonderful. I'm just going to put oneness here. We're going to do that first. And I think we're going to Andrea.
I'm Andrea Levson from Cascade, Wisconsin. So it's like 10 minutes south of Plymouth. You guys know where that is. I'm just so incredibly grateful and blessed to be able to participate tonight. So I'm just I don't get this opportunity very often. So excited, and so good to see all of you.
Yeah. Paradise is when like-minded people are gathered together. So it's our privilege to be with you and all the others. Such a tender comment. Mary, and who's that with Mary?
We don't know yet. Hi, Robert, and everybody. I'm Mary Bratz from Elmond. And Robert, I think I first met you up in Stevens Point when you came to try to help the community.
Yeah, that's right.
So true confessions, I invited my brother so that we could spend an evening together, but so far he hasn't come. So that's my motive.
Well, it's wonderful to see you again. Wonderful to see you again.
You too.
And I see there's a gentleman with you.
Yes, hi, my name is Dick Stevens, and I'm the other Baha'i from the Elmond area. And tonight I'll be happy to learn anything and everything I can.
Wonderful, wonderful. So nice to see all these radiant faces. And it looks like Jeff and Lisa, we're going to the end. We only have a couple left. Jeff and Lisa?
Hey. Yep. Jeff from Elkhart and my wonderful, beautiful wife, Lisa. As far as myself tonight, I'm just here to enjoy the friendship and just try to take in as much as I can.
Wonderful. Welcome, welcome. Well, I'll leave my dear sister-in-law till the end. Jan.
Yes, hi. I'm Jan Williams from Colgate, Wisconsin. The first Baha'is that I knew were Tom and Patty, and then very soon after, Alan and Nancy. And geez, that was 40 years ago, and they have just been such dear people. And I have been so impressed with Baha'is. I've loved everyone I've met, and I accept every invitation I can. I just enjoy such positive, wonderful people. who definitely demonstrate the character qualities that the beliefs that produce such wonderful. So I appreciate.
Wonderful. We had it break up a little bit, but the heart came shining through like sunshine. And my dear sister Mina, I think you are the last.
Thank you, Robert. It is wonderful to be here tonight, especially visiting with my old friend, Dottie. Not that she's old, but I haven't seen her for such a long time, so it is wonderful to visit with her tonight. I am interested, Robert, in getting a little bit more understanding about the first word of the topic tonight, which is qualities, the qualities of character. So I would like to learn a little bit more about the intent of the character or the qualities of character that you're going to talk about tonight. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, friends. I know we've taken some time, but you know, we're all part of a human family. And I always feel that personally, the most important aspect of any meeting is unity and feeling that we're connected and that no matter what we look like, where we come from, whether we're short or a little chubby like me or tall, whatever, that we recognize we're all part of God's family and that our purpose is to love each other. It's very simple. And to be good to each other, to build a better world, to honor our Creator and honor His creation. I want to address this issue of the oneness of God and the oneness of religion and the oneness of mankind. If there is anything on this planet that is simple, and please hear me through, there is nothing more simple than the way God reveals His religion and what He asks us to do. He asks us to do almost nothing. Recognize His teacher, they come in a series. Obey His teachings, kindliness, goodliness, don't steal, don't cheat, build a better world. Friends, it's not complex. Become better as human beings. But nothing is more unnecessarily complicated. I don't want to say complex. Complex is a positive word. But nothing is more unnecessarily complicated than what humanity has done to religion. If we look at the religions as they have been given, we see the core is essentially the same. The golden rule is in each one. Love the Creator, love your fellow human being, and there are other rules that we follow from the, you can think of the golden rule, you can think of the 10 Commandments, you can look at what we're going to see tonight, be generous in prosperity and thankful in adversity, be worthy of the trust of thy neighbor and look upon him with a bright and friendly face and so forth. But we have been so indoctrinated by what people think religion means that we can't even see our Creator. I remember as a child in church asking myself if I lived in the days of Christ, why did they deny Him? I was about 11, 12 years old, and if I lived then, would I have denied Him? And then I remember asking myself, if He came today, would I deny Him? And I remember what I said to myself, that I hoped I would not. Friends, religion is not complex. If we simply get human injection out of it, Christianity is in the words of Christ. Friends, you do not have to agree with me. I'm just being forthright. I'm sharing my understanding. If it's not a direct quote, it's only my understanding. And as you can tell, I'm not a shy person. Christianity is what Christ gave us. but it has, for example, last I heard years ago, at least 10,000 versions of it. And we have hate and destruction, all kinds of things done in the name of God in a variety of religions, because we did not turn to the manifestation, the teacher, whether it be Christ, Muhammad, each one came at a particular time for a particular purpose and in different circumstances that required different teachings. If we look at the Baha'i faith, the central principle is the oneness of humankind. Friends, that is not complex. Baha'u'llah tells us we're flowers of a garden. Now, how many colors of roses are there? For Baha'is, the different colors are a gift. You know, I was on a call with my nephew who's in Guyana in service. And I teased him. I said, you know, Hassan, I'm jealous. Your tan is so much better than mine. I look pale. Diversity is something we should thirst for. It's not complex. If we can simply get what we have been told over the years, how do we do that? Somebody asked, how do we acquire these qualities? Friends, it's really simple. It takes courage. It takes courage to turn. I'm giving you a Baha'i perspective. It takes courage to turn to the Word of God and humble ourselves before that Word and then arise and struggle and take it to heart every day. Sometimes we fall back a little. Hey, get over it, move ahead. And that's why community, encouragement are so important, because we were not created for perfection. We were created to strive towards perfection. Now, the oneness of God should not be difficult, because there's only one creator. If there's more than two, well, then it can't be God, because the very definition of God in every religion is one. Progressive revelation, which we saw in these early slides, that is God revealing himself through different ages, manifesting himself through different teachers. You saw some of the names, Abraham, Christ, Moses, and so forth. That should not be difficult for us if we understand this. We have been educating our children from time immemorial the same way. Do we think we are so clever that our education to our children, we thought of ourselves? Kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, the education is one, the teachers are many. The process of education is continuous, it's progressive, and it's orderly. At least it's supposed to be. Now, these are the very qualities that Baha'u'llah tells us are the process, are the process that God uses to educate us. One education, Baha'u'llah says this is the changeless faith of God, eternal in the past, eternal in the future. It's one education. Religion is a process of educating humanity to lift us up out of our animal self to our spiritual self. Baha'u'llah says, kindle the fire of love and burn away all things, then set thy foot into the land of the lovers. What does he mean by that? What does he mean, land of the lovers? It means we turn to God first, not to a man, not to a woman. We turn to God. And we have the courage to detach ourselves from everything that we have been taught, like the early Christians did, the early Baha'is, the early Muslims, the early Jews, and so forth, to get that pure milk of religion. So if we look at first grade, second grade, third grade, et cetera, on through a PhD and postdoctoral work, that is precisely how God has educated us. But we're not clever enough to realize, oh, that's where we got it. I wasn't. I had to become a Baha'i before I could understand that. Every religion is clear that there's one God. And all creation, Baha'u'llah tells us, every atom is for our education. There's intellectual education, there's physical education, there's spiritual education. The loftiest that we need, although we need all three, is spiritual. Now, what is it that God has given us to make it as clear as day? The sun. There's one sun, friends. That one sun shines on all humanity unless we turn our back. And in the analogy, it's the worms. The worms turn their back on the sun. They still exist. They're happy. They go underground. But those entities that want to grow, they stay above ground and they grow. That may not be an adequate answer. I've been accused of being a zealot. I'll take that. So we can go back to that. And Katie, if you ever want to have a conversation about this, I'd love to just visit with you about it as well. I'd be very glad to. But I think if we actually, and this is what I did as a child, because I read the Gospels, but what I really focused on was what Christ said. And that is what I found when I went to church was meaningful to me. And regrettably, if I think of the last 100 conversations I've had with Christians, it rarely comes up. I'm not trying to be harsh, friends. I'm just talking about my own experience. All kinds of other things come up. Now, why the topic for tonight? The topic for tonight, not yet, Tom. Not yet. Yeah, Tom's trying to tell me to move on. So, why the topic for tonight? Because we never hear about it. We hear about race, we hear about inequality of women, we hear about injustice, we hear about all kinds of things. And we want to float on top as a society. I'm not talking about any individual. In total disregard almost to what's in our hearts. Because I can guarantee you any of the things I mentioned, if we do not have courtesy, if we do not have kindness, if we do not have understanding and encouragement, if we do not have a true love for other people, it means nothing. Because you can take a group that's homogenous. If they don't have those qualities, they're going to be at each other's throats. All of the things Baha'is are working passionately for around the world, the elimination of racial prejudice and racism. The caste system in India, the Baha'is there are working on that. The equality of women in India as well, and also in Africa. You know a little bit about that. That seems to be the key thing. And of course, there's racism as well. All of these things Baha'u'llah came to eradicate, as well as the extremes of wealth and poverty, and to provide education for every child. It means nothing unless in our souls and our hearts, we're lit, we're created with virtues. Because all of those qualities, if I don't have them, if I don't have a generous spirit, if I don't care about excellence and I'm a teacher, if I don't care about sacrifice and I'm a mother or a father, well, what's the point? They're beautiful principles that have no fire under them. They have no light to go through. So that's why the subject for tonight, I've never heard it addressed on all the programs I've listened to. And we can't address it because we lack a common vision. We lack a common vision as people in this country. There are groups of people who have a common vision, but as a country, we lack a common vision. The whole concept of common sense, it doesn't exist because it's not common. Baha'u'llah has come to give us a common vision and to give us a way to lift ourselves up out of this quagmire. So like the lotus, we arise above the mire. And like the attar of rose, we come from the petals. So this quote that I shared earlier, kindle the fire of love and burn away all things and set thy foot into the land of the lovers. For me, what that means is essentially this. that I need to turn my face to God and have the courage to seek him independently, not just what I've been taught as a child or what I hear, but have the courage to really search. And there's a touchstone for truth, and it's unity. Does it lead to unity? If we're kind to each other, does it lead to unity? If I'm unkind to you, does it lead to unity? Or you're unkind to me, does it lead to unity? So you see, it's not that complex. If we allow ourselves to think about it in a very simple, straightforward way, because if something is not simple, in essence, it probably isn't true. Baha'u'llah says we must therefore labor to destroy the animal condition till the meaning of humanity cometh to light. And for Baha'is, what does that mean? I said it earlier. He's written over 100 volumes. We immerse morning and evening to the extent that we're able, in whatever our nature is, to get the spiritual manna from these writings. That's where the Holy Spirit is. That's where the power is. And a proof of it, there's only one Baha'i faith in the entire world. It's the only religion that there's only one. There's so many sects of every religion. Friends, this is just fact. Baha'is respect every one of these religions. We just say, look, God has spoken again. He wants us to come together. Let's listen to what he has to say now. Because if I'm in 10th grade, I don't need to go back to 6th grade or 9th grade or 4th grade. I need to learn what my 10th grade teacher is teaching me, and then 11th and 12th, etc. So before we go into the quote, here's a quote from Baha'u'llah about our purpose. Now, there are many quotes about purpose. This is just one. Some of them have to do with acquiring virtue. Some of them have to do, well, the one that he repeats over and over is to be happy. But that requires a spiritual life. He's made that clear. The betterment of the world, the oneness of humanity, the exaltation of God's attributes, acknowledging that there's a God. There are selections on purpose from Baha'u'llah for all these things. But I'm just going to read one and then we'll go to the quote. The purpose of the one true God in manifesting himself is to summon all mankind to truthfulness and sincerity, to piety and trustworthiness, to resignation and submissiveness to the will of God, to forbearance and kindliness, to uprightness and wisdom. His object is to array every man with a mantle of a saintly character and to adorn him with the ornament of holy and goodly deeds. And one more short selection, we can all relate to this one. For love is light, no matter in what abode it dwelleth, and hate is darkness, no matter where it may make its nest. So let us go. I'd like a few of our guests, maybe Katie, Thiers, forgive me, I don't know you well enough to get your name right all the time. And I need one other, because I'm going to ask you to read sequentially, or maybe we need a man in there. Is there do we have a guest, Tom, that's a man that maybe might participate? Let's appoint Alan. That'll make it simple. So what I'd like you to do, Katie, and then Thiers, and then Alan, if you would just read a sentence and then remember where you are so that we have 3 readers. We're going to go through it and then we're going to go back one by one. Is that clear? Katie, Thiers, and Alan, is it clear? Okay, good. I can't see everybody.
Okay.
So
Yes.
Katie, start us off, and then Thiers, and then Alan. Just take us back.
Generous in prosperity and thankful in adversity. Be worthy of the trust of thy neighbor and look upon him with a bright and friendly face.
And there's where at be a treasure to the poor.
Be a treasure to the poor and admonish to the rich and answer to the cry of the needy. A preserver of the sanctity of thy pledge. Be fair in thy judgment and guarded in thy peace. Speech. Be unjust to no man and show all meekness to all men. Be as a lamp unto them that walk in darkness, a joy to the sorrow, a sea for the thirsty, a haven for the distressed, and uphold and defender of the victims of oppression.
Excellent. And Alan, would you read maybe 2-3 sentences, and then we'll go to Katie again.
Robert, have someone else read. I'll pick up after them. I had to leave the room for a few minutes. I'm not sure.
Okay, so I'll read them. That's fine. Let integrity and uprightness distinguish all thine acts. Be a home for the stranger, a balm to the suffering, a tower of strength for the fugitive. Be eyes to the blind and a guiding light unto the feet of the erring.
Be an ornament to the countenance of truth, a crown to the brow of fidelity, a pillar of the temple of righteousness, a breath of life to the body of mankind, an ensign of the host of justice, a luminary above the horizon of virtue, a dew to the soil of the human heart, an ark on the ocean of knowledge, a sun in the heaven of bounty, a gem on the diadem of wisdom, a shining light in the firmament of the generation, a fruit upon the tree of humility. You want me to continue?
Let's have Theers take us out. That was lovely.
We pray God to protect thee. We pray God to protect thee from the hearts of. We pray God to protect thee from the heat of jealousy and the coal of hatred. He barely is nigh, ready to answer.
Oh, friends, that was wonderful. You know, some of us have been reading this for almost 50 years. So, you know, we're a little bit more familiar with it, but thank you so much, Katie and Theus. So friends, Tom, if you would, put the entire tablet on the screen like it was. Katie, is there one in particular that you're drawn to that you would like to pick to have us examine?
Okay, I think be worthy of the trust of thy neighbor and look upon him with a bright and friendly face.
Praise be to God. Does everybody see that? See where it is? Can you just make that part bigger, Tom? Just make that part bigger.
Let's see. Not
it's the second sentence. Well, that's fine. Leave it like it is. That's fine. So be worthy of the trust of thy neighbor and look upon him with a bright and friendly face. That was it, was it not, Katie?
That's correct. That is correct.
So what do we think that means?
Well, I'm thinking about it meaning that each of us have come here on this earth to provide, you know, with certain uniquenesses about us. And if you first of all, trust that the person is as worthy as you are. And then you will look upon them as bright as you would look upon yourself, or as well as you would look upon yourself. So be a kind person.
Wonderful, wonderful. Anything else that comes to mind? How do I make myself worthy of the trust of my neighbor? And inherent in this is being worthy of the trust of all peoples. How do I do that? You see, friends, why is clear. We want a better world. We want to be better people. We want to glorify God. What is simple? It's right in front of us. Be worthy. That's the what. It's the how that's always challenging. How do we become worthy? I often tell, well, not often, but it seems just about every year that we have an interfaith in the Brookfield area. Mina, correct me if I'm wrong in Manije, but it seems one of the comments I seem to make over and over is to turn to the text of whatever religion we believe in. That's where the source of power is. And if we're not getting that power, then we have to ask ourselves why. What is it that I'm not getting? How do we maintain a bright and friendly face? Where do we get the energy to do that? How do I start my day to be able to do this? By the way, I love asking questions, as you can tell. Because questions are powerful. And friends, there's no wrong answer here. We're family. That's how I view it. You know, you may not like me after this, but as far as I'm concerned, you're family, all right? We're a human family here. How do we maintain this bright and friendly face? Where do we get the energy for that? Especially if someone doesn't like us or slanders us. That's what Christ did. That's what Baha'u'llah did. Well, I'll tell you what Baha'is do. We start our morning with prayer, with devotion, and reading the writings. And the amount varies from person to person. It might be very little for one, it might be hours for another. But that's for us where the energy comes from. We think we're like flowers. We view ourselves like that, and we want that Holy Spirit comes through the Word of God, we believe. Theris, would you like to pick another one? Give us the whole screen, Tom. And then is there one you would like to pick?
There's so many in there that I can relate to and that I like. I like the one where it says, be a home for the stranger. And I like the one where it's down at the bottom, the prayer where you we pray to God to protect thee from the heat of jealousy and the cold of hatred. That speaks power in today.
Yeah. You should know that this was written for one of Baha'u'llah's sons who was unfaithful. You know, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. And if you're in nature and if you love roses, you're going to find thorns. So the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. And unfortunately, one of his sons was unfaithful. And he wrote this for him to protect him. It's something I recite from memory every week, by the way, because it's just so powerful. So how do we protect ourselves from the heat of jealousy? What does that have to do with how we view ourselves? If I'm jealous of someone, forget the other person. What about me? Everything in this tablet has to do with me, not anybody else. Because the whole world can be crazy and have poor qualities, but my responsibility to my creator is to, as much as I can, arise and struggle and be better. So if I want to assure myself that I don't have jealousy and hatred, what do I need to do? How do those souls who don't have jealousy and hatred protect themselves? And by the way, Tom, if you don't like the way this is going, you can cut me off anytime. You know, it's all right. You know, we're friends. I can take it.
No problem, Robert.
So let's go back to the garden, friends. Let's go back to the rose garden, their hyacinths, jasmine, honeysuckle, their trees, bushes, their butterflies and birds. Which way does the flower turn?
To the sun.
Well, guess what? If we're turning to God, there are two things that are obvious if we think about it. He's in a condition of godhood. There's only one condition of godhood. We're in a condition of servitude. Well, if I'm a servant and I understand, and I do because I'm a Baha'i, that Baha'u'llah, I understand because Baha'u'llah tells us that every soul has been endowed with capacities, but there must be different capacities. Some have more, some have less, but they're all perfect. An example is a dandelion versus a rose. I remember with Menige several years ago in Door County, on the left side of the road, it was just the right time of year, there was a dandelion field. It was so gorgeous. You know, these yellow flowers on green leaves. You didn't desire to look at a rose or a lilac or anything else. Because the dandelions were perfect in their own right. So how do we view ourselves? How do we get the strength to look at ourselves? Well, I'm going to have to quote Baha'u'llah here. Baha'u'llah says, O son of being, with the hands of power I made thee, and with the fingers of strength I created thee, and within thee have I placed the essence of my light. Be thou content with it, and seek not else, for my work is perfect, and my command is binding. Question it not, nor have a doubt thereof. When I was a very new Baha'i, I worked at the National Baha'i Center on a fluke, and there were so many individuals who were so well educated, so capable, just wonderful spiritual lives. And I used to feel, wow, you know, I'd like to have some of that. And I was guiding at the Baha'i House of Worship. And if you haven't been there when the pandemic's over, believe me, you owe it to yourself to go. And I was reciting this from memory one time that I was guiding, and I really got it. It isn't about anybody else. It's about my relationship with God. Every person, what he's given us is perfect, and humanity would be imperfect without each one of us. So I don't have to be anybody else, and I don't want to be anybody else. I just want to be the best Robert I can be. Katie wants to be the best she can be. Theris wants to be the best she can be. Well, if that's the case, and I have a love relationship with my Creator through his teacher, well, what could be better? And by the way, I've heard so many people give presentations who are far more capable than I would ever be. And guess what? I'm the one who's at the advantage because I get to learn from more people than they do. They're higher up the food chain, you know? So I mean, there aren't that many people they're going to learn from. But for me, you know, I'm lower. I get a lot more that I can learn from. Tom, you pick one. Friends, is this okay what we're doing?
Okay, this one. This is a little more abstract, I guess. A due to the soil of the human heart, an ark on the ocean of knowledge.
You know, Abdul-Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, the center of the covenant, that's why we have no division. We have millions of Baha'is, and there's only one Baha'i faith. It's the only time it's ever happened is because of Abdul-Baha, the center of the covenant, and Baha'u'llah left a will and testament to that effect. You know what he said? He said, beware, beware, lest ye offend any heart. He also said, and I'll quote him again, of all pilgrimages, the greatest is to relieve the sorrow-laden heart. And also he said, and never is it the wish of Abdul-Baha to see any being hurt, nor will he make anyone to grieve. For man can receive no greater gift than this, that he rejoice in another's heart. Well, we're not done with it. There's, I'm sure others have input. My default is always to quote the writings if I can, because for me, that's my passion and they address it so well. But certainly, what does it mean as well, due to the soil of the human heart, but also an ark on the ocean of knowledge? It doesn't say arrogance or pride, and it doesn't say superiority. What is the knowledge that we're talking about here?
Well, it's clearly the knowledge of God, I think. And that to sail on it is in a way moving toward the direction that you want to go based on knowledge rather than opinion, I guess. That would be one way that I would look at it.
Oh, that is such a wonderful way, Tom. And you know, isn't it even more poignant when we put it in the context of the confusion of the last days? You know, in religion, there's the concept prior to Baha'u'llah, the concept that in the last days, there'd be confusion, knowing not where to turn. And then, of course, what other kind of knowledge is there? Because look, we're spiritual, we have to be spiritual. What other kind of knowledge is there?
Well, then in our own work in architecture, there's the knowledge of how to make a beautiful place. And so,
wonderful.
And that knowledge mirrors the knowledge of God in a sense that it springs from a oneness.
Yeah, wonderful.
Hey, Robert, Bob Wagner has his hand up. You may not be able to see that.
No, I can't see anyone actually, except 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, I can't see you, friend. So just chime in.
So Bob, unmute. There you go.
I'm ready to speak. An ark on the ocean of knowledge. I mean, I lived my life as a scientist, and I was always impressed. I've always been impressed at how, particularly Abdul-Baha, thought that this was a wonderful activity to be engaged in. And in fact, he points out in Promulgation of Universal Peace how we're going somewhere. Humankind is going somewhere. We're on a pathway to a better world. And the way we get there is through our knowledge of all of tangible reality. It can be the hard sciences, it can be the social sciences. It's just every aspect of what is true about our reality is knowledge that will play a role in how we achieve heaven on earth.
Excellent. You know, friends, these two answers are just perfect. If we look at the human body, we find the answer clearly within ourselves or the human entity. We find, first of all, we have a spiritual life. At least some people do, a spiritual life. We also have to have an intellectual life. Guess what? No intellectual life, there are no houses. There's no farming. There's no agriculture. There are no books. There's no writing. There's no speech. No science. No way to provide charity. No way to build a church, or for Baha'is, a house of worship, transportation, and so forth. And then the third kind of knowledge is what? Well, I have to brush my teeth. I need to wash my hair, right? There's certain things we have to do. So it's a lower kind of, but we need all of them. Otherwise, we end up with a sickness that's physical, a kind of sickness that's intellectual. It's called ignorance, hate, pride, etc. You know, sometimes people who think they know the most are the most difficult to be around if they're filled with themselves. And Baha'u'llah says, say all things are of God. And he tells us that this is a remedy for any such situation. So there you go. Just remember that. Well, let's find another one. Who would like to pick one? Let me see who else had. Somebody pick one. Go ahead and make it large again. And then just speak up. And if you're a guest, well, you get preference. But while you're thinking, what does it mean to be generous in prosperity? Let's take a deep dive into this briefly. And then, Dan, did you have your hand up? I think I may have spoken while you were raising your hand.
Yes, I was raising my hand, but
Okay.
Your question about this particular phrase, be generous in prosperity and thankful in adversity. In many ways, this is the way life is. There are ebb and flow. There are times of where we experience joy and happiness, a level of prosperity, a feeling of connectedness to community, to family, to our loved ones, and material prosperity. But life has ebbs and flows, and we're not always in one state. We flow from one to another. Generally, that's the human experience. And so the opening of this passage sort of addresses that right off the bat, that there is this ebb and flow. And I think as we go through all of the gems contained in just this big paragraph, I think it speaks to the sense of give and take, ebb and flow, be unto others the way you would want to be treated as well. And so when we're in prosperity, let's be generous about that with people. And when we're in adversity, then we perhaps will be deserving of the grace and bounty that others may bring to us.
Wonderful. The obvious when we first see this, and this was such a wonderful insight, Dan, thank you. At first blush, many will look at this and say, okay, I have a few pennies to rub together. I should help someone. But I think there's a deeper meaning as well, and it's prosperity of spirit. There are individuals, friends, who have never seen kindness. They've never seen real love. I'll tell you a really quick story to make my point. Probably one of the most moving presentations I've ever heard. It was on AM radio, probably 20 years ago. It was a young man who had been imprisoned young, and then released. He became a Christian in prison. He was responsible for murders, drug addiction, and all the drug sales in one or two large provinces of Canada. He was a violent person, so violent that when he put him in a cell with someone else, he destroyed that person. The person had to go to the hospital, and they put him in an area that was very secure. Now, here's the part, you get the background, right? This is not somebody who cares about anybody else, just himself. He saw in this high security area, and I remember it well, for 7 years, he saw a minister come in, I believe it was every Wednesday, to meet with a group of prisoners to learn about Christ. After 7 years, he came to the conclusion that it was possible for an individual to care about another individual. 7 years, friends, to reach the point where it was possible. And he became so filled with anxiety that the person next to him was really concerned, because he could tell that he was, actually a little probably concerned about his own welfare. Generosity of spirit, friends. Abdu'l-Baha, for 24 years, the son of Baha'u'llah, walked a particular path. He spent his mornings helping people, actually a good part of the day, in a variety of ways. And there was one man for 24 years would, ridicule him every time he walked by. Bad ridicule. 24 years later, the man becomes very sick. 2 weeks, Abdu'l-Baha himself cleans his room. He has a physician go. He has others to attend to him, as well as himself. After 2 weeks, he wakes up. What face does he see? He sees the face of Abdu'l-Baha. What does he say? He says, "Forgive me, I did not know." Friends, generosity of spirit. There are folks who are so filled, who are not filled with these. They only can learn it from people who have it, and people who are patient enough to show it to them time and time and time and time again with sacrifice. And both of these make us stronger. Well, Tom, have I taken too much time?
We are approaching the hour and a half period. If there's anything that anybody wants to ask, otherwise we will kind of close. So if you have one or two further questions, we could entertain that, and then we can call it an evening.
And friends, if this has not been something that you can benefit from, please forgive me, because no one's perfect. So hopefully you'll overlook all of my shortcomings. Any questions that weren't answered or answered satisfactorily?
Robert, I think you chose this quote to set a standard for what character might be. And so the standard might be high, and that can be intimidating, and we can look at our shortcomings, and in light of this explanation of character, all these gems of phrases that are in this passage, and it really articulates a standard that's quite high that we all aspire to. And yet in light of that standard, we often find ourselves falling short. And and that's the human condition. I think that is, and that's okay. That it's our job, as you were saying earlier, to hone our character day in and day out with joy, with happiness, with love, with an appreciation for the progress we all have an opportunity to make. And it's such a clear vision for that high standard that we pray humanity will rise up to, so that we as a human race might enjoy living among peers who hold this standard at such a high level as well. And we all work together to accomplish even more just imagine for a moment, if there was one community where all the people in that community lived at the standard of the virtues that are articulated in this passage, what a wonderful village that would be. What if there was a state or a country or the whole world that held that standard and lived that standard already? What would humanity look like if we were all in that space? What a beautiful vision I think that is. So thank you so much for bringing that to us.
Well, Dan, thank you. And friends, if we could not achieve each one of these to some extent, we should never be hard on ourselves. Life is hard enough sometimes, you know, the vicissitudes of life. It's step by step, like a child learns. The idea isn't, though, I haven't arrived. The idea is that I'm learning, I'm getting better. And guess what? A child falls. It's the only way it ever learns how to walk. Any one of these, I'm sure, that we could look at and say, oh yeah, on a certain day, I probably didn't do very well in this area. That's okay. That's not the point. We fall down, we get up. It's not about perfection. It's about the perfection of trying, of continuing. And the question raised earlier was how. The second half of how. You know, there are 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and so forth. There's male and female, positive and negative. You know, Baha'u'llah says, and it's also in the Quran, all things have been created male and female. So if you think of that conceptually, as a conceptual framework, well, one eye, if you will, or one side is guidance from God. Baha'is believe the guidance for today is in Baha'u'llah's writings. But the other eye, the other side, the complement to it is practice for a lifetime. My understanding is we're going to be doing this throughout eternity. That's my limited understanding, because these are attributes of God. And Baha'is believe that we're going to live eternally, and we're supposed to acquire more and more of this as time goes by. We don't understand what the next world will be like, but it's not going to be a world of bad things. It's going to be a world of, just like the babe comes to this world and there's more in every way, we go to that next world, there's more in every way, but goodness is goodness, growth is growth.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Robert.
For everything.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
My privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. It was really nice.
My privilege, my joy.
Very enjoyable.
Thank you very much.
We
It was
just want
nice
to,
to meet you all. Thank you for letting me join you. It was very interesting. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aloha, Pa.
Good night.
Good night.
So Tom, I want to visit with you when we're done.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the upcoming talks are by some very special people. Beverly, Pat, and Alan will be talking about the heart of social justice.
Oh, nice.
And your dear wife, Manije Khorshidi, will be talking about how does an understanding of history contribute to our spiritual growth. Very intriguing. And then on April 23rd, our son Everett and his wife Nadia Ayubzadeh from Minneapolis will be talking about community building. They've had a particular experience in that the Baha'i Center is a half a block from George Floyd Square in Minneapolis. And so he has personally been involved with that development as a community building experience that has happened there. It's a very diverse community, and the whole event has caused the community to come together in an extraordinary way. And so I'm looking forward to their presentation.
What date was that, Tom?
April 23rd.
Okay.
We also just want to share with you that if anyone has an interest in learning more about the faith or pursuing, other discussions outside of these Friday night gatherings, we have study circles that include Baha'is and people who are not Baha'is, but who, share an interest in developing their skills to bring to the world. And we have devotional gatherings where we come together to share the prayers and the writings from a range of sources that touch us on any given day, or just if you are interested in just finding out more about the faith itself, you can go to www.baha'i.org, or you can call Patty Kubala or talk to any Baha'is that are in your life. And we can share information about all of these things for you. And we hope you'll come back. Thank you so much, Robert.
Oh, thank you.
And everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
It was really great to be here, folks. Thank you.
So good to see you, Sharon.
Yeah,
Good to see you, Sharon.
too. I see Patty, and I mean, just, yes, and There's. It's so good to see you, There's.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Theris.
Yeah.
Theris. I'll get your name right next time, Theris. Some people are slow. I'm slow. And Katie, do we not know each other from?
Yes, we do. We know each other.
I remember you well. You're a dynamic soul.
Yes.
You've been so sweet on this call, but you're sweet anyhow. But I remember you well. You have such a beautiful, animated spirit and so much understanding. I really deeply appreciate your question, because it should be the most simple thing in the world. And a proof of that is how cruel would it be for God to expect us to not understand him if it were not simple.
Mm-hmm.
But we clutter it up. We pollute the air like we pollute the social environment. The air of our spiritual air.
Spiritual nature. Yes.
And you're still in Mequon, I take it?
Yes, I am. I am still here.
Well, maybe someday we'll be able to greet you in our home.
That would be nice.
Pandemic's over. I know Manesia and I would love to have you and your husband in our home.
Yes, my husband passed away in December, but I would love to attend.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to say adieu. I just wanted to say, Tom, how beautifully this is put together one more time. It's just lovely. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, Robert. Thank you for your effort.
My joy. Much love, friends.
Thank you. It's so nice seeing you,
Thank you.
Robert.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Well, thank you again for coming and sharing in the conversation.
Thank you for having it. It's really enjoyable.
Bye now.